and we have Cassandra as well. I believe Mary is actually going to be stopping in a little bit, hopefully. But as always, everything that happens in this room is completely confidential. Please do not share anything that you hear outside of this building. And then also, if you have any advice, or if we give you any advice whatsoever, we are not your medical provider in this building, so you can take it for what it is. It's just our own personal recommendations, but we're not doing it in like
Check to see if that thing's recording. Just look at it.
So we have Ralph here from the Marziali, is that right?
Yep.
Foundation, and he's going to be our guest speaker today. So we're really excited to have him. And I'll let Ralph get started.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ralph Marziali. I'm 51. I live in Bristol. I have a wife and 3 sons. They're 17, 15, and one's going to be 13. Dominic, Luca, and Anthony. I'm here because I had pulmonary hypertension. Back, I got diagnosed in 2007. I got diagnosed with scleroderma. So I was a pro hockey player. I played professional hockey until I was 30. I retired in 2004. Always in great shape. And then in 2007, I got diagnosed with scleroderma. My fingers were turning blue. I didn't know what was going on with me. They sent me to do a stress test, and then they said something's going on, so they diagnosed me with that. And then 3 years later, I got diagnosed. 4 years later, I got diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension, and that was tough. I didn't really know anything about it. I didn't read about it. My wife's like, "You should read about it." I just lived. I'm a hockey player, you know. I'm warrior mentality. I didn't think. I just kept going to work, raising my kids, and you know, I started on the medicines. I started with a Credo. I'm sure some of you guys heard of these medicines. Then I was on Lateris, and then I was on Tyvaso, which was the breathing nebulizer every 4 hours. So those were my 3 main meds. I was on those for about 10 years. And then in 2019, I wanted to get my hips replaced because my hips are destroyed from hockey. So I went to see Corey Ventitulo, and she said, "We have to do a right heart catheter, check how your lungs are." Well, apparently the pressures got worse. She said, "Your lungs they're not looking good, so we got to start you on another medicine." So they started me on Remodulin, and they put it here. It was that, you know, the infusion pump. That wasn't going good. The fluid was building up in my arms. It really wasn't getting into my lungs. So after a couple months of dealing with that, that was painful. We switched to Velitri, and that they put a PICC line here, and that was constantly going in. And I had to wear a fanny pack. I constantly had to have the medicine on me, making the medicines. It was a big process, you know, 3 hours a day, once a week. You know, it's awful. It was awful. I had to sit there, you know, sterilize, you know, 3 hours, keep it in the fridge, keeping an ice pack with me, constantly having that. So I was on that, and then I was still coaching. I was coaching my boys in hockey. Now nobody knew I had these pumps on me because I would wear my tracksuit. I would go on the ice. I was coaching the kids. And then when COVID hit in 2020, one morning, it was like in March, I sneezed and I couldn't breathe. I was freaking out. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't breathe. I could not catch a breath. I ran in my room because I got sleep apnea. I grabbed the sleep apnea machine and I started getting that forced pressure, and it was helping me. So I didn't know what was going on. You know, my wife, my kids called my wife, and we called Corey Ventitulo, and she said, "All right, if it keeps going on, you know, you got to go to a hospital. I don't know what it is. You know, we're on FaceTime." So that night, you know, I dealt with it, and then I woke up the next morning. My son was sleeping, and I woke up and I couldn't breathe. I freaked out, grabbed the machine again, called 911. The ambulance came. They took me to the hospital. The worst part was going from my bedroom. They had to carry me with a chair down the stairs into the ambulance. I had to let go of that sleep apnea machine. So that time to go down there was the worst because I couldn't breathe. Then when we got in the ambulance, they had a forced pressure sleep apnea machine in the ambulance because all they put was that little, what you guys have on, you know, like it's not really, there's no air coming out. So when I got in the ambulance, I could breathe again. Came to the hospital. Now, this is when you're watching TV, you see all the dead bodies on TV. You don't know what's going on with COVID. I thought I had COVID. I didn't know what was going on. Am I going to go to the hospital? Am I going to end up in one of those freezer morgues out in the parking lot? So I get to the hospital. They do a x-ray. She comes in the room. She says, "Your lung collapsed." Okay, how'd that happen? She goes, "All the scarring, fibrosis, you know, that's probably what happened." We got to do an emergency procedure. They had to stick a tube through my ribs, which hurt like hell. Let my lungs inflate again. Now I'm in the hospital. Now I can't see my family because of COVID. And that's, I met her. And I was in there the whole spring and summer of 2020. I was in the hospital, in and out of the hospital, collapsed lungs, Velitri medicines, learning how to do this, back and forth, awful. But now I got, what was it called? That thing that comes out of your ribs, you know? It had the stopcock on it. The thing to help, yeah, to help you when you have a collapsed lung. They put that, but you can live with that. So I was walking around with this tube. I had the pump. I had all these devices on me, and I'm still coaching hockey. I got my tracksuit on. I'm going to hockey with all this stuff on. I don't know why I was doing that, but because I love the game and I love my kids and I wanted to coach. So I went back to the hospital again, and that's when Corey came in, and she says, "We got to send you to get evaluated for a lung transplant, or you're going to die." Now, you hear those words. I'm 46 years old. I'm freaking out. I got 3 kids. So it's like, okay, what do we got to do? We're going to send you to Philadelphia. They specialize. Actually, they wanted to send me to Cleveland. That's the best, they said. But my insurance wouldn't cover it. So they said, we're going to send you to Philadelphia. They're just as good. They deal with scleroderma and pulmonary hypertension. It's not only about the transplant. It's about afterwards, your care, what they're going to do for you. Or else they would have sent me to Brigham and Women's or Mass General, you know. So I went out to Philadelphia. We did a summer trip. We went out there, my family. I was supposed to be an outpatient. The first day there, I'm doing an echocardiogram. That thing got clogged. The stopcock got clogged. I couldn't breathe. I'm on the table. They call the ambulance. They send me to the ER. Now I'm over there. They have to unclog that. They said, we're just going to keep you in the hospital. So now my family's in the hotel, and I'm in the hospital. So they said, all right, so my family just went back home. Leave the kid here for a week. We're going to do all the tests we have to do. Now, when you get an organ, you got to go through every kind of test because they're not going to give you something if you have cancer or some kind of condition. So you're like a guinea pig. You're there, and every day, 2, 3, 4 hours a day, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm doing this, colonoscopies, endoscopies, drinking all kinds of fluid, getting x-rays, ultrasounds, all kinds of shots, vaccinations. It was awful. I was exhausted. But in the end, I was put on the list. Came home a week later. I was on the list, had a decent score because I'm young. I got 3 children. I have a good support group. You need a support group. A couple weeks later, we're right around Labor Day. My lungs collapsed again. They call the ambulance. Now I'm walking out with the oxygen. I go like this to my boys. Daddy will be right back. I didn't know I was going to be back a year later. I leave. We go to the hospital, Rhode Island Hospital. They said, there's nothing we could do for you. Your lungs are like 2 bags of cement. They call Boston Med Flight. Helicopter comes, picks me up, flies me to Philly. Never been on a helicopter before, but at this point, I mean, I was always scared, but I'm going to die anyway. So we go. We got to land. There's all these, I don't know, Philadelphia, there's all these hospitals in one area, and the buildings ain't all the same size. So, like, you're landing on one, but then you got a tall building next to you. So they got to land this helicopter. It's crazy. And I'm watching all this through a little window. They take me out. They bring me in. Right away, they want to put me on life support. It's called the ECMO machine. They jam these 2 garden-sized hoses in my groin. Now, you're supposed to be asleep when this happens. I was told. I was wide awake. I had 20 nurses in there holding me down, screaming. It was like someone was jamming a spoon into my groin. It was the worst pain in the world. But they got it in. This machine takes your blood out of your body. It comes out like a cranberry color, goes through a machine, it comes back like a watermelon color. I guess it's an oxygenator, cleans your blood. So that was going on. A couple hours later, I remember this because this is all I can remember. I was hungry. I said, I got to eat something. The girl got me chicken fingers, French fries, and a Coke. Probably not the healthiest thing, but it could have been my last meal, but it was great. So I ate that. I remember calling my wife, and I don't remember anything else after that because I guess the anxiety or whatever, I started freaking out with because I was on this machine. They sedated me. They must have put me in a coma. Now I'm on this machine. You can only be on this machine for 25 days. I was on it for about 23 days. They called my wife. They said, it's getting close. We might have to pull the plug. You don't have lungs. So anyway, they said, get up here. So I don't know what happened, but something happened where I ended up going septic. I got blood uh, a blood infection. I had 108 fever. I coded. I mean, 108. That's incredible because usually 104 you think you're gonna die, but 108. I coded. Yes, yeah. It was unbelievable. I was told this. Now I didn't remember any of this. So all this stuff. Get up here. It's not looking good. He's got an infection. We had to take him off the list because when you got an infection, you can't be on the donor list. So now my wife hears he's off the list. He's got a couple of days left on this machine. He's running out of time. Now this is where the guy upstairs is watching me. All right. 10 minutes before she's at the hospital, they call her up. They said, all right, slow down. Infection's gone. No more fever. He's back on the list. Incredible. Now we need lungs. He's running out of time. So first set of lungs become available. The doctor doesn't like him. I don't know. The guy didn't take care of himself. Second set of lungs come. We don't like those either. Now the ball's on this guy. I'm dying, and he's passing on lungs, right? Take one of them, right? But I guess in his eyes, we're not going to put this guy through this whole thing, and then he's going to die a couple months later. Plus another thing too, it's about their percentages. When I asked him, what's the percentage? He goes, we're 85%. They don't want to screw that number up either. So I get it. But I'm glad he did that. So miracle, third set of lungs become available. Apparently they like them. So they send me in. Now, I guess there was supposed to be a priest in the building to come see me, but there wasn't. So the nurses start calling all these churches. So I guess they got a priest. And as the priest comes out of the elevator, I'm getting ready to go in the elevator with all the nurses and the doctors to go up to the operator. It was like unbelievable. The guy comes out. They go in. Now, one of the nurses told me this, so he was giving me my last rites in front of all these, and I guess everybody was crying. It was, I feel like I'm gonna start crying. I wasn't even know what was going on. So they bring me in. 8 hours later, surgery's done. I woke up a month later. I didn't even know what was going on. I woke up. All I remember is I couldn't talk because I had a trach in my throat. I couldn't move anything. My body was like paralyzed. I could see the wall. There was a lot of letters from all the kids I coached. There was a big poster that my family made up, a collage of all my kids and my family and stuff. And for that month I was out of it, I went somewhere. Now, I don't think I went to heaven. I don't think I went to hell, but I went somewhere because I had a lot of crazy dreams. All my dreams were about oxygen. I remember swimming underwater, a lot of dead bodies, bright lights, trying to search for air. All my dreams were different, but they all had to do with I couldn't breathe because of what I was going through. So I woke up and I remember I was in and out of it. Your wife's going to come back. Your wife's going to be here a couple days. A couple weeks go by, but it's like you close your eyes, you wake up, next thing you know, Christina's there. She came to stay with me for a few days. So, we're going through we're doing all this. My wrist was like this. My fingertips were all black because of the oxygen. I couldn't move my legs. They were testing my legs. They said, he might never walk again. We don't know if he's paralyzed. We got to test his spine. We got to do an acupuncture on my feet. But eventually stuff started coming back a little at a time. They lifted me up out of the bed with a crane. I was like a tea bag. They would lift me right up. They put me on another thing, and they would try to like elevate it because you're like this for days and months. Now you got to go up. The blood has to go down. You start to get dizzy. They put you back. So every day you try to do a little bit more. Then one day they come in the house. They come in the room, and they're dressed in hazmat suits, like there's like an outbreak or something. And I said, "What's going on?" I couldn't even talk, so I was just like, what's going on? You got COVID. I got COVID. I'm in the hospital. How'd I get COVID? A staff member must have gave you COVID. Hey, Mary. So now I'm freaking out. I got new lungs. I got COVID. Now my wife's got to hear this. He got COVID. You're under their care, and you got COVID. So now they got to move me down to the COVID ward, which was in the basement. Really, really scary. Ugly room, no windows. I was there for 28 days. They put me on that medicine. That medicine that Trump was on, what was it called? Venetoclair, something like that? Yeah, that's it. So they put me on that. I didn't have any symptoms, thank God. So I weathered that storm. Now, I wasn't eating. I had a feeding tube for 6 months. Feeding tube was in my nose. I guess one day I ripped it out. I don't know what happened. I must have woke up with a dream. I ripped it out. So then they did surgery. They put it in here. So now I wasn't eating for 6 months. I don't know if any of you guys ever had to go through that, eat or drink for 6 months, but you're watching TV, you see Coca-Cola, you see McDonald's, you're freaking out. And all they gave me was this little sponge to wet my mouth. So what I did was I took that to another level. I got a cup of ice, and I made my wife get me every flavor of that flavored stuff, and I would squirt it in that, and now I had some kind of a flavor, some kind of sugar. And then we went to goggling Gatorade, goggling cranberry juice and ginger ale. I had a trough. I was spitting like a cowboy in the trough. They had to come and clean that thing out every day, full of spit. But that was the only way I could get by. Don't swallow, they said. Don't swallow, because with the scleroderma, there's that little flap that keeps the stuff from going in your lungs. That had to heal. That wasn't healed yet. So they were worried about this. These are all things I learned. I didn't know. So now they said, okay, we're going to send you to therapy down the street. It's a place called Good Shepherd. They sent me over there. This is 6 months later. They decided to take me off my feeding tube and let me eat. But when you haven't eaten in 6 months, you can't go from not eating to eating. You got to go to purees, then for a couple of weeks, then chopped food. They come in with a plate of steak and rice and all this whole milk. I ate like an animal. I was just eating. I couldn't stop eating. The food went in my lungs. I didn't know. That night it was New Year's Eve. I remember I was on the phone with my family. That night I couldn't breathe. I was trying to go to the bathroom, and I didn't know what happened, but I was pushing, and next thing you know, I couldn't breathe. I was freaking out. I'm calling them. They come, and I need oxygen. And all they had was that. That wasn't enough. So I don't remember anything. I remember them coming there. I remember the doctor on the phone with my wife, and I woke up 3 days later on my birthday, January 3rd. I was intubated, okay, and they were singing me happy birthday on FaceTime. I couldn't talk because I had the tube in my throat. I guess I got aspiration pneumonia. So now I had pneumonia. So the whole time in the hospital, I might have caught pneumonia a few times. I caught COVID. So now they said, we're not sending you any other any other rehab places. We're going to rehab you here, which was not common for this hospital, because that hospital didn't have rehab, but they had a gym. So every day they would take me down, just Monday through Thursday, 1 hour. They'd come and get me, take me out of my bed, put me on another stretcher, bring me down, take me out, put me on this bed, start stretching my legs, moving me. You could see some of the videos. There's 5 people. I'm trying to walk with a walker. It was incredible. I didn't know. Now, in my mind, the hockey player, I'll be coaching in a few months. That's just what I'm thinking. I didn't know what was going on. I'm thinking, all right, I'll get through this. Not knowing the time frame. So I was in Philly for a total of 8 months, and then I couldn't see my kids. My son came up with my wife after 6 months. They let my son come in, so I see my oldest. That was tough after not seeing him, because he was my first. I coached him in hockey, and then and by the way, when he came up there, I told him, I said, "You're in Philly. You got to go get a cheesesteak." So what's he do? He gets a cheesesteak and he brings it in my room. And he's eating it right near me, and she's eating food, and they're eating, and I can't eat, and I'm goggling Gatorade, and I'm smelling this cheesesteak. So anyway, that was good. So I went from Philadelphia. I got transferred to a hospital in New Bedford called Vibra. This was a hospital. A lot of people, older people, a lot of people on ventilators. I was the only one in there that could actually move. So my therapy, I was in a wheelchair, but I could get up, with some help and do a couple things. So in Vibra, I learned I had no torso, by the way. I had no muscle. So I was like a baby. You sit me up in the bed, I'd fall back over. It was awful. So in Vibra, I started to, do a little bit of stuff. I would sit up, learn how to get up onto the walker, which was so tough to pick myself up on the walker. And every day I would take another step until I could eventually walk out the room. But now, just because my muscles, I went down to 150 pounds. I was like a skeleton. I had no muscle. My lungs were brand new. So now every time you exert yourself, your lungs are, now the anxiety kicks in. You could tell your lungs are not used to this. So I had to build those up too. So it wasn't just my muscles and my legs. It was my lungs. They weren't used to it. So every day was a struggle. And then from there, I went to a nursing home in Bristol where I live, down the street for 2 months. And that's where I could see my kid. Oh, I left off the biggest part. When I was in Vibra, I went to Vibra to be closer to my kids, but this place would not let me see my children because they were under 16. They said, we'll let you see your kids on a Sunday morning outside for 45 minutes. I fought with this guy. I wanted to kill him, but I couldn't move. Like if he caught me back in the day when I was a hockey player, I would have destroyed this guy. I didn't like him. He was ugly. I didn't like him. He was an ugly man. When he came in the room, I wanted to tell him, "You're an ugly person." But and he no hot. Like I got to see my kids outside just for 45 minutes. Why can't I see them for a few hours? So they wheeled me outside. Luckily, it was like May. The weather was okay. First time I see my children, because the little guy was only 7 at the time, so he was 8. 8, 10, 12, and then they were like, a year later. So they were scared. They didn't know. They see daddy in a wheelchair. He left the house. He was a man. He was my hero. Now he's a little skinny guy in a wheelchair. So they were jumping all over me. So every Sunday it was nice. I was there for 2 months. And then we said, we got to get out of here. We got to get closer to home. So we found a nursing home called Silver Creek. I went over there. Once again, I was the youngest person in there. A lot of older folks. Only person to ever be in there with a lung transplant. Now, this is new to them. They don't know. But they give you medicines every day. The therapists were great. They would come to my room. They would take me down, work with me, get me out of the chair, parallel bars, all kinds of stuff. Worked there, taught me how to go to the bathroom again by myself. That was tough because I didn't really want to wipe myself, so I would make them do it. But they kind of were adamant, you got to wipe yourself. So we still joke around. Yeah, and what's funny? I still talk to them, and they're cool. They're 2 girls, and she always asks me, "You wiping yourself?" You going to you going number 1? Now my wife jokes around because I used to carry that thing to pee in. I still have it. I keep it next to me on the chair. In the middle of the night, as I take my shoes off, I don't want to walk to the bathroom. I use it. My wife's like, "You still doing that?" But I use the toilet, but I like to use that. I know it's disgusting, but all right, whatever. It's my house. I do what I want. So at this place, we got to get ready to get you home. So my wife remodels a basement, and we had carpet. We put hardwood in there, plank flooring, so I could wheel the chair. I can't climb the stairs, so now where are we going to sleep? So we get the bedroom ready in the back. We get one of those beds that move. So Silver Creek got me ready. We practiced getting in and out of the car. We came there one day, practiced getting in and out of the car. Now I'm home. Great. Living downstairs. The back bedroom. PTSD. I had it bad. I was afraid that I was going to stop breathing because, you go through all this stuff. I can't sleep in this bedroom by myself. So now my children, they were rotating. They were sleeping with me. I didn't want to sleep by myself because if something happened, nobody's going to hear me. I'm all the way downstairs in this back bedroom. So that lasted a month. I said, I'm sleeping in the living room. So we got a nice recliner. I still sleep there till today. It's been 5 years. In the living room, my kids would sleep on the couch with me. Everybody was there. It was great. Now, when I was in the hospital, all I had was that poster. I would FaceTime my kids, but I couldn't really talk. So FaceTime was pretty simple. Hello? And I just start crying. So I'm on the phone crying for an hour. So my wife would answer the FaceTime on the iPad, and she see me crying. She's like, here we go again. She's like, babe, you got to keep crying. I said, what do you want me to do? I don't see you guys. Yeah. So just crying. I want to see Chachi. Let me see Chachi. There's Chachi. Start crying. I want to see Luca. There's Dominic. All right. So, we did all that. So now I'm home, and everything's going good. The PT was coming to my house a couple of days a week, but it wasn't enough. So, my sister did a GoFundMe. I started going outpatient. Insurance only wants to pay for one, either in-home or outpatient. So I didn't tell them I was going outpatient. I did the in-home. My sister did a GoFundMe. I was paying for outpatient. So now I'm hitting therapy like 3, 4 times, 5 times a week. Going there. And I still go to the same therapy place in Warren, and it's attached to a gym. So I went from the wheelchair, people in the gym see me from the wheelchair, 280 pounds, getting taken to the back, doing all kinds of stuff, trying to move, to the walker. Now I'm a hockey player, so I said I got to go from the walker to something else. So I cut my hockey sticks. I cut the blades off them, and I made 2 ski poles. So now I'm walking around the gym with hockey sticks. Everybody knew I was a hockey player, so I was walking around with that. Now I got the cane. Over the last year, I lost about 100 pounds. I've been training like an animal. That's what I do now. I'm in the gym 3, 4 hours a day. Everybody comes up to me in the gym. I know everybody's name. They know mine. You're my inspiration. Fist pumping. If I see somebody get off a machine, what are you doing? Get back on it. Right away. I'm not joking around. I've seen a change in the gym. The atmosphere, everybody is like working harder because they're like, here's this guy. He was in a wheelchair. He's in there doing this. He's doing that. I mean, I'm not stopping. Next year, I'm going to get my hips replaced. I'm going to play hockey again. That's 100%. 100%. But how does it relate to you guys? All right, I told you my story. I had pulmonary hypertension. There's nothing like you can't breathe. It's awful. You know, like a fish out of water. It's the worst feeling in the world. And maybe I made it because I was a hockey player. I had that mentality. I was always a hard worker. Not everybody has that mentality. A lot of people, they're weak, you know, and it's not your fault, but you got to find something to make you fight. You got to find that, like my engine was my 3 boys. You know, every time I wanted to give up, I'm in the hospital, I'm 6 hours away, I got no family around me. My family was the hospital. It was the people there. I got to know them all. I look at that picture and I would be like, I got to get back to those guys. What am I going to do? I'm going to have some cucumber raise my kids. I'm going to have some guy sleep with my wife. I can't do that. So I fought. So you got to find something. It doesn't matter your age. I know some of you are older. Doesn't matter. You got one life and you can do it. You could keep fighting. You don't give up just because you got this disease. You know, Corey Ventitulo and Mary, right there, Mary, she was my doctor. They told me I could have lived with this disease until I was an old person. I didn't know it was only going to last 10 years. Did COVID have something to do with it? Absolutely. They still don't know till today because I asked them that. They didn't know. My lungs were collapsing in the hospital, I said, did COVID do this? Nah, we don't think so. It was probably the fibrosis. Bullshit. Because my lungs were fine for 10 years, and then all of a sudden COVID hits, and now I'm dying. So COVID definitely speeded up the process. So that doesn't mean your stuff can't get better. The medicine you're on, you just got to keep your mentality that always positive. You got to keep fighting. You got to find something, whether it's your grandkids, your kids, whatever, a dog, a cat, I don't care. You got to find something to keep you going, or else that's it. What are you going to do? You're just going to go in the ground? You know what I mean? And I'm here for that. So I started my foundation last year. A couple of years ago, some hockey buddies threw a golf tournament for me, just like that. Hey, Ralphie, we're going to throw you a golf tournament. It was pretty good. We had about 60 golfers. So I said, you know what? I could do something with this. And I started talking to a couple of people. I said, Ralph, you got to get out there. You got to tell your story. Like, this is inspirational, like everything you've been through. I died 4 times in the last 3 years. 2 years ago, this is a part I left out. 2 years ago, Easter 2023, I was coughing so much, and I wasn't cleaning my sleep apnea machine like I was supposed to. You know, I was doing it once a month. It was too much, too long. I ended up making my bronchial airways raw from the coughing. I was trying to cough up this phlegm. My wife's like, what are you doing? Like, I was going to cough up a lung. Next thing you know, blood's coming out of my mouth. I'm coughing up blood. And that's never happened to me before. I'm like, what did my lungs come apart? What's going on? I call Mary. You got to get down to the hospital. You got to do a CAT scan. We go down to the hospital. We do a CAT scan. I'm walking with the walker. I walk down there. And now this is before I got better. This is like 2 years ago. This is before I lost all my weight. So I'm walking and I'm exerting myself and I'm breathing heavy. By the time I got to the room, because I was breathing so heavy, the blood started coming out. They gave me a bucket. I was filling up this bucket. It was like a movie. It was like somebody shot me with a gun in the back and the blood was coming out of my mouth. It was awful. My sister was right there. I looked at her face and she's supposed to be like not making me scared. And I looked at her and she was just like, oh my God. So I'm like, Nina, tell my family I love them. I think I'm dying. And luckily the blood stopped. They admitted me into Jane Brown. Now, they didn't hook me up to any monitors, which they should have, but they didn't. Now, luckily, the nurse came in to change my antibiotics and my IV on my medicine they gave me. Because if she didn't, I wouldn't be here today. I was on the phone with my sister. My sister heard this whole thing. And she heard, I said, I feel like I got to cough something up. So the nurse goes, it's okay, Ralph, cough it up, cough it up. And the next thing you know, you don't hear anything else. All you hear is, Ralph, Ralph, Ralph. I guess I was choking on a blood clot. I went into cardiac arrest. They came in. My sister has code blue, code blue. They come in. They start reviving me. They busted 10 ribs to save my life. They revived me 3 times. I woke up 2 days later. I couldn't move. I said, what happened? I felt like I got hit by a truck. I said, what happened? You died a few times, but we brought you back. They had to break 10 ribs. You're okay. Now, all the progress I was making in the gym just went out the window because now when you go in the hospital, every day in the hospital is like a 3-4 day recovery. I was in the hospital for 2 months. I couldn't even walk down the corridor. It was awful. But I had to get rid of this. I had to weather the storm. I had to a bacterial infection. It was called Pseudomonas. It was a worm, got in there from the dirty sleep apnea machine, which I don't do that anymore. Every 3 days, it's on my schedule. I clean it, boom. So they got me on antibiotics. They got me on a antifungal, 2 different kind of antibiotics for 2 months. I got rid of this thing. Thank God. Came home, started, and that's when I said, F this. I hired somebody to make my meals. I was counting my calories. I was on the machine 2 hours a day. Every week, 4 pounds, 3 pounds, 5 pounds, gone. Sauna suit, sweating. I'm here today. Started my foundation, charity beneficiaries. This is one of them. I haven't raised much money yet, but I'm just starting. CALC. Boston Med Flight. They saved my life. They flew me out there. The Gift of Life Foundation. It's the donor program where I got my lungs. Clyde Barker House. It's a house in Philadelphia which houses the families that when there's not enough money, so when they come to visit you, it's like a discounted rate. I got those. Plus, I've been doing food drives. East Bay Food Pantry in Bristol. The Johnny Cake Center in Westerly. I do a food drive down there. I'm doing hockey donations. I got hockey bins in the rinks. People donating their equipment. I'm cleaning it, redistributing it to special needs hockey for those kids that have special needs. Trying to raise money to get free ice time for them. So I'm doing all this. But my bread and butter, what I love to do is what I'm doing here today. Talking to you guys. I've been on the road show twice. I'm going to go back on in July to promote my pickleball tournament. And I'm telling my story on mental wellness because a lot of people, like I was saying before, they don't, I'm not trying to say people are weak, but some people, they just don't have it. They might want to go jump off the bridge. They get diagnosed with something and they say, I can't deal with this. It's it. You know, I'm not taking my medicine. I'm just going to die. No, you got to keep fighting. You got to keep going. I used to come here. I used to go see Mary at the other place in Wampanoag Trail. I used to do the 6-minute walk test. My hips are destroyed from hockey. I got 80-year-old hips, no cartilage, major arthritis. They said, your hips they're just bone on bone. When it rains, I'm in the worst pain in the world. That's why I'm not walking yet, because of my hips. But I used to go do the 6-minute walk test with my bad hips, with my pulmonary hypertension. Always with the mentality in mind that I'm going to get better someday. But I had to die 4 times. I had to get new lungs. Now my whole life is different. I'm going to be 5 years old in September. I'm 51, but I'm really going to be 5. That's how I look at it. I'm 5. They said lung transplants can last 5 to 10 years. The one they seen the most was, I think, 30 years, they said. I'm going to beat that record, 100%. And I'm going to play hockey again. I'm going to get my hips done. I'm going to play hockey. I'm going to golf again. It might not be in another 3 or 4 years, but that's okay. I got time. I didn't think it was going to take me this long. I thought when I got home from the hospital, I'll go to therapy for a little bit and I'll be back doing what I got to do. I didn't know it was going to take this long. I mean, what is it? September 23, 2020 till now. That's 4.5 years. 4.5 years. I'm walking with the cane, but I'm a man again. For 3 years, I couldn't be with my wife. That was tough. I mean, my wife's 7 years younger than me. She's sexy. I couldn't. I got to sit there on a chair. I was like Jabba the Hutt. I'm the big fat slob on the chair watching TV. My wife's washing my ass in the shower. Excuse my language. And I can't be a man to my wife. Now I am. I'm 51 years old. I got abs. I didn't have abs. I played pro hockey for 10 years. I never had abs. Now I got abs. So you see what I'm saying? Because it's all up here. So with all that, please tell me you got some questions for me. You got to have some questions.
I got a question.
Okay.
So, with all this, God bless you, man.
Thanks.
How did John asked the question the right way without getting too personal?
Go ahead, man. I don't care.
How did your insurance work for all this?
Insurance?
How are you coping with all this?
See that girl right there?
I mean, because that's a lot. It's not like you just.
No, I didn't even think about the money wise because I have these guys right here, Mary, and then there's a secretary called Lauren who used to work for them, who's now works for my primary in Wampanoag. She was on the phone every day fighting with insurance because I have Medicaid, I have state insurance. They didn't want to pay because I was in Philadelphia. I don't know how they did this, but my whole situation was over $2 million. The state of Rhode Island, I didn't get one bill. I mean, I might have got a bill from Philadelphia, like a couple $100, I sent it to him. I'm like, I don't know what this is. Yeah, don't worry, we'll take care of it. $2 million. You know when Medicaid sends you that stuff at the end of the year? $2 million they paid. I don't know how. I got my surgery done in Philadelphia. I'm on every medicine possible. All right. I looked one time. I ran out of this fluid I got to take every day. A bottle of it's $900 a month. The state pays for this stuff. I don't know how they did it, but they didn't bother my family with this stuff. They just dealt with it. And I'm here because of that. You know what I mean? If you're asking about the insurance, they took care of all that shit.
Right.
They did. And a lot of it.
Well, I mean,
They had a fight.
It's a huge financial burden. Like,
Woof.
and then, like, what I'm learning now after all this is, it's almost like I need to be as indigent as possible to get more doors to open.
Yeah.
Or I just need to make way more money.
No.
And I'm stuck in the middle because I'm paying out of pocket just to keep my health in check.
Let me ask you, are you on any specialty medicines?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they help with that.
Well, Mary used to be on the phone with some of these programs. They used to give me grants.
Yeah.
The Tyvaso was like $15,000 a month. They would give me grants. I remember one time something happened. I got a bill for 15 grand. It was 1 month, something overlapped. I said, I can't pay this. What are you, crazy? 15,000? The pills were like 6,000 a month. They got the grants. What was the name of that place? You remember one of them? There was one. It was a good name. I forgot. Kind of like, not like a gift of life, but something like that.
Yeah, like, I mean, I get them too for.
You got to get those grants.
Well, I wouldn't be able to.
But you also need somebody to advocate for you because you can't be on the.
Yeah, like I don't.
Where you're working, you have insurance with your employer, but the insurance is not enough.
It's not enough. I don't know how to answer that because I was on disability since 2014 when I got diagnosed. I used to run a mortgage company, so I went from playing pro hockey to doing mortgages. Then I ran a mortgage company.
I guess that's my question.
I was on disability, so Social Security.
So I'm the same age as you.
How old are you?
I'm 49.
Okay, but you're working. I wasn't working, so I was on Medicare, disability, and I got Medicaid through the state, which was like a United Healthcare Community Plan. So I had all that stuff in place. So when it came to like bills, I would just call and be like, listen, I got to get on this medicine. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. Boom, boom, boom. They're on the phone. So I'm not telling you to make them do it, but they did it.
Right. Yeah. No. Every situation is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
I think it's how to get on disability is a big problem because there are many patients that we see that have not been able to successfully get on disability.
Well, maybe getting on disability might not be enough money for him. You work, right? So you must make decent money.
I don't know because I don't know my options. Like,
well,
is it even worth me exploring that?
Well, you got to find out. So what you do is you call Social Security. You ask them, say, listen, if I got on disability, because you pay into that, it all has to do with how much you've made over the years. So I don't know what you make, but they might say, all right, we're going to give you $2,500 a month. That might not be enough compared to what you're making. So getting on disability might help insurance-wise.
That's my whole situation because later on down the road, as don't become more healthy and Mother Nature starts to take effect, then the pulmonary hypertension is going to have an effect. I saw it with my mother-in-law. So things happen, but I guess to plan for the further down the road, disability the way to go because now you have a better insurance coverage.
You got a better insurance.
How is today's new president working in office? How is this going to affect?
Well, I think the other question is that disability, is that going to be enough to support you and your family versus what you make?
I mean, I think you got to weigh the pros and cons.
Yeah. I'm going to turn this recording off. I was working. I wasn't working, but I have